What if I told you you only need to know one chord to master scales, melodies, and chord progressions? Yes. So people ask me during the live stream, they said, which scale should they start with to create melodies? And which scale should they start with to create chord progressions? And I said, stop thinking of it in scale terms. Let's talk about it as harmony. So there's one chord you need to understand, and it's the minor 11th chord. Let's just call it a chord extension for now for the minor scales. So if you guys want to copy these chords, this chord is the A minor 11th chord. It's A, C, E, G, B, D. Now the only note we're missing from the A natural minor scale is F. So any chord from this point that has F will fit this, will finish the scale. So that could be F, could be D, okay, so there's no specific note that we have to use. It's just we're missing the note F. So when you think of it this way, you're not worried about this, like the 2-5-1, the 1-6-5, the 1-5, like memorizing all this stuff. I'm not saying that's not important. I'm just saying that when it comes to writing and creating from scratch, you have to give yourself the ability to move around. And when you guys get stuck with your melodies and your chord progressions, it's because you don't know the theory to allow you to move around. So for example, when you simplify it, the A natural minor scale is just one chord, the A minor 11th chord, for example. And then the only thing you need to, I'll say, memorize is that the only missing note is going to be 4 notes below the root note if it's a minor chord. So for example, if we count down 4 from A, you get F. Okay, so let's do this from D instead. There's a D minor 11th chord. Now the only note we're missing is 1, 2, 3, 4 is B flat. So the question is, how do we insert B flat? You know, there's many ways we could do that. We could do it with G. We could do it just starting at B flat. Okay, so this is going to give you the ability to move around and not worry about the specific scale or the specific scale degree that you're on or the Roman numeral system. So this is why I teach this way, is because I want you guys to have a little more flexibility, because ultimately scales are just basically a chord split into 2. Okay. Let's try from F. So let's do F. Now doing the 11th chord here is requires a lot of hand structure here. So again, starting from F, let's count down 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So all we got to do is just incorporate C sharp. Oh. Okay, here we go. And this allows you to move. You're not worried about the scale that you're in. You're worried about just fulfilling the notes that are necessarily in a perceived scale. Or we could do something like this. Just like that. I'm telling you guys, this is the pivot point that you're missing. And I know everybody wants to demonize music theory and say you don't need it. But when you guys are stuck on melody, it's because you don't understand harmony. When you're stuck on chord progressions, it's because you don't understand harmony. A chord progression is really just one chord split into 2. So I could take this chord A, C, E, G, B, D and make 2 chords, A minor and G major, for example. Or I could play D, F, A. I could play it a 4-note chord. So we could do D. We could just take out the top 2 notes. So it's a D, F, A, C, and then we could play A minor. Now I'm going to revoice this for the video here. So it'd be D, excuse me, not, what did we say? I forgot that fast. Sorry, y'all. Do this again. My brain stuttered for a second. All right, we could play D minor 7th, or we could play A minor 7th. So let's start at D. Okay, this is a revoiced 7th chord. Then we could play A with a raised 3rd, so that would make C up top. So it'd be A, E. Man, it's a lot of reverse thinking. Okay, so I'm just giving you guys little ways to move around. Okay, if you don't understand harmony, you're not going to really get the bigger picture of anything, because you're going to be memorizing scales, memorizing scale degrees. You're going to be watching videos teaching you about the 1-4-5 and 1-5 to 2-5-1. Yeah, that's important for stuff like this, tritone substitutions or the gospel thing. But when it comes to creating from your own brain, you need to have the ability to change over time. So again, when we start at A minor 11th, it gives us more flexibility to not worry about, okay, what's the 5th scale degree in this case? Okay, that means I have to work my way to E. That's good when you want to create a turnaround. But I'm not thinking which chord is next. I'm just saying which chord has that F that we're missing. There's a lot of chords that have F. There's D minor 7th. There's F major. There's G. So we could do even this. Not saying it's the fanciest chord. So now you're going by taste and less about a hard rule and a hard scale degree. And here's the cool part, you know, when you allow yourself to do this, you allow yourself to go out of key. This sounds good. We're not in key. There's one note that's out of key, but it sounds great. So by the way, the sounds are not coming from this app called Chordwatch. The sounds are coming from my Chord Chronos. I want you guys to understand the difference. So let's apply this technique. Let's close my eyes, pick a random note. So we are at E flat. Let's create the E flat minor 11th chord. Now, this is where I teach what's called chord codes, which bypasses the scale. And if you ask me, what is a scale? A scale is whole steps and half steps. Well, how do you count a whole step? It's 2 steps away. How do you count a half step? It's 1 step away. So there's a math underneath the whole steps and half steps. And that's what chord codes are to the chord. It's basically showing you how to build a chord without any scale. So here's 0, the point of rest and no relative distance. Okay, so if we want to create a minor, 11th chord, we're going to make it 0, 3, 7, 10, 14. That creates the minor 9th chord. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 0, 3, 7 plays the minor triad just like that. So you start at 0, your root note, and you count up note by note until you finish out the chord code. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So here we have the 9th. I got to reposition my hands here to get to that 11th. So the 11th would be 14, 15, 16. So basically 17 on top. And now let's use that same formula. Okay, now that we understand this chord, what note are we missing? I don't even need to memorize the whole steps, half steps, and all that. I just need to count down 4 notes from E flat and figure out that note. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that gives us, what is that, B. So I got to figure out which chord has B in it. See how that works? Even though I'm going out, we're not in a set scale. That's not how I'm thinking about this chord. I'm going off of which tone is missing, okay? Which is that B. So there's a lot of chords that have B in it. Now the dominant chord doesn't fit this vibe because that's not even the 5th of this scale. We don't need to get too into the weeds. Let's figure out what the 5th would be. So if you count as 0, let's count up 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 5th would be here at B flat. So to create, we're getting into advanced stuff. I'm just showing you guys some stuff. So here's B flat. And let's count out 0, 4, 7, 10, 14. That creates the dominant chord. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a major 3rd. 5, 6, 7. This creates a major triad. But then we're going to add a minor 7th on top. 8, 9, 10. This is what creates that dominant chord. It's a blend of major and minor. 11, 12, 13, 14. But let's sauce it up. Let's give you that R&B sauce. Let's raise the 5th and the 9th because they are called tonal twins. And this is the voicing that we would get. So that's pretty simple. Hopefully I remember this because I'm learning this on the fly with you guys. So let's get that first chord going. And then let's hit it with that. What was that? That was an accident, but the sound of fire. I'm creating this as like I've literally not practiced before the video. This shows you how this works. Once you understand the pattern, you're like, oh, that's all the people are doing. Pick the 11th chord, if in this case minor 11th. Count down 4 notes from the root note, and now you have the note that you're missing. That note just needs to be somewhere in here in the mix. And it could be any chord that sounds good. Now, composed, that would sound a lot cooler if I just took my time to practice that, but I'm showing you guys in real time. This is a science. This is what creates melodies, chord progressions. This is what creates scales. It's harmony. Understanding harmony will unlock everything. So if you guys are struggling, it's because you might not comprehend harmony. And it took me a while to even get into the deeper side of harmony, because there's 2 things to think about. I could play a chord like this. I could even drop it down an octave. But that's the simple, what we call voicing. So what we can do is raise the 3rd to create a different voicing. So now we have a whole different voicing. Now we have a whole different sound just by changing the notes in the chord itself. And that's a whole science unto itself. Like we taught you this in a separate video, but this is a 9th chord, but it's revoiced to be super jazz sounding. I forgot the last chord we played, but once you understand voicing, you unlock a whole different side of music theory. And that's the side that takes a lot of practice and retraining your brain, because again, you're not used to playing thirds raised up an octave. It's just, you have to literally train your brain like how it looks. So with all that being said, sorry, I had to clear my throat. With all that being said, it comes down to one chord, that minor 11th chord, at least for the natural minor scale. So let's do E, for example. Here's one of my favorite chords, E minor 11th. Now let's count down 4 notes from the root note. And then we get C. Okay, so all I got to do is figure out a way to add C in here somewhere. It doesn't need to be the root note. It just needs to be in here somewhere to finish the scale. We don't have to force it. I'm just teaching you guys what creates a scale. It's just you're using the majority of notes in the scale in this case. So let's create a switch up chord. That chord, and let's do a different chord. Let's go down an octave. Yeah, it's too dark. All right, so now we got E minor 11th, and we're gonna figure out a way to add C in here. We could do F A C, we could do C E G, we could do A C E. Which, if you understand tonics and fifths, we didn't get into all that, but if you understand tonics and fifths and all this, you'd understand that A is probably a better solution to move to, because it's E is the 5th of A, and that includes C. Let's try it. Now let's try to sauce it up so that A sounds a little cooler. But I think if we sauce it up, it doesn't include, oh yeah, C is in there, okay. But the thing is, we would need, I know I'm getting into jazz theory here, but E would be the dominant of A, not the other way around. So it'd be like this. And then we fulfilled our scale. So that is how I want you guys to start thinking. Think in terms of the harmony underneath the scale. Harmony is the foundation. Scales are just a derivative of stuff that works. But what are chords? It's stuff that works. Here's a little bonus for today's video. Everything, I mentioned this during the live stream, but everything pretty much comes down to either a major or minor. For example, I'll give you guys a quick demonstration. This is a minor chord, 037 in my chord code technologies, for example. Now what happens if I drop the third down a half step to create a suspended chord? What we actually did is simply add a fifth of a fifth, because if I take this A flat up, so for example, I could do this. We start with the root note, count up 7 notes. That gives you a perfect fifth. What happens if you count 7 more notes? Okay, you have a perfect fifth of a perfect fifth, which creates what's called the ninth. And if we just drop that note down an octave, this G sharp, or excuse me, G flat, or no, I was right, G sharp. If we drop that down an octave, you get the suspended second chord. It's really just 2/5 stacked up. So that doesn't, basically in jazz theory, the way your third determines the chord type. So if I were to have 0-3-7, it makes it a minor chord. If I make it 0-4-7, it makes it a major chord. Those are the only 2 real chord types, is major or minor. If you really think about it, because a suspended chord is a fifth of a fifth. That's, unless you define a fifth as a chord, which I technically do, but I think of a fifth as a chord technically, but in terms of like a hardened name, okay, it's a fifth of a fifth. Okay, let's go through the chord types. So we have, what was it? 0-2-7. That gives us a suspended second. 0-3-7 is a minor. 0-4-7 is a major. 0-5-7 is a suspended fourth. But what is this suspended fourth? This B. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What if we raise this B up an octave? Okay, let's count that. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's our minor seventh. Okay, that's the minor seventh. So basically it's a minor. Okay. And if you want to get into the technicals, you know, you're adding what's called the perfect fourth, which is 5 notes away. So to me, perfect fourths, perfect fifths, they operate in the same way. Whereas the minor chord and the major chord do different things. So everything comes down to minor. Even if you do, for example, a diminished chord, 0-3-6, it's just 2 minor thirds stacked up. You have a minor third here, minor third here. That's all you're doing. What is an augmented chord? It's 0-4-8. Okay, that's 2 major thirds stacked up. Major third here, major third here. So everything is a minor or a major chord. And when you simplify it that way, it just makes stuff a little bit easier. And again, everything else from that point is probably a perfect fifth somewhere inserted in there. So for example, in this seemingly complex chord here, this G flat minor ninth, for example, I could start here at the root note, which is F sharp. And we're going to count up 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That gives us what's called a perfect fifth. And then count up 7 more notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now from here, we're going to create what's called a major triad on top of this chord. And that's what creates the minor ninth sound. It's very simple once you understand the pattern. And then from here, all we're doing is moving the third, which creates the identity for the chord, because this is a major chord. So what if we move this to a minor? It changes the chord type. And then what we're going to do is take the root note and the fifth and the ninth, basically the whole left hand, and drop it down a half step. And that gives you the whole second chord. So this is one of my favorite voicings for the minor ninth chord, because the minor ninth is my favorite chord, but this is my favorite voicing for it. So what I'm trying to show you guys is when you understand the patterns behind this stuff, you realize that everything is really just the same thing. And you're trying to pivot away from that thing. And here's the last little tidbit I'll give you guys is if you start your songs with a chord, let's say D minor, whenever you want it to feel like it's going somewhere and coming back, we're going to add what's called the dominant chord. So I have a very specific voicing that I like for my R&B tracks. It's a sharp 5, sharp 9 altered chord on a dominant chord. I know that sounds complicated. When you understand it, just go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. You guys will be able to understand that. I know it sounds foreign right now, but so we're going to add what's called the fifth of the root note here, which is count up 7 notes. Gives you A. So if my chord progression needs that turnaround energy, let me switch the sound here. All right, so now I have a smoother like R&B tone. Before it was a little harsh. So here's. Now, if I want that turnaround feel, so see how I'm using that dominant chord to come back to the tonic? Everything is really just tonic dominant. You're just bouncing around when you really get into chord progression. So sorry for my Wi-Fi, my camera just glitches randomly. But that is how I think about chord progressions, and hopefully you guys can take this information and apply it. And again, the main thing I wanted to teach today is this, the scale that you guys, at least the minor scale, natural minor scale that you guys, it's really just an 11th chord missing one note. And that one note is 4 notes down from your root note once you create that minor 11th chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, B flat. So the question is just how do you insert B flat if you want all the notes in the scale? Trying to give you guys different ways to think. All right, y'all. So if you want to learn music theory, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. Look for the music theory essentials. And inside of that, if you want to go really complex, go to the music theory magic course. That will go over voicing and different things. All right, y'all. Peace.